The transport ship docked at Kepler Station with a loud clang that echoed through the metal corridors. Maya Rodriguez picked up her single bag and walked toward the exit. Other passengers pushed past her, talking loudly in different alien languages. She said nothing and kept walking. The station was huge. Beings from dozens of different worlds moved through the wide hallways. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed with soft light. Maya had seen pictures of alien species before, but seeing them in person was different. She watched them carefully as she followed the signs to the academy. The Galactic Military Academy took up an entire section of the station. The walls were painted in neutral gray, and everything looked clean and official. Maya found the registration office and handed her transfer papers to a tall blue alien behind the desk. "Maya Rodriguez from New Terra," the alien said, reading from a screen. "You are 3 weeks late for the semester." "Yes," Maya said quietly. "You will be placed in Combat Tactics Class 7 Alpha. Commander Vexstar is your instructor." The alien looked at Maya with 4 yellow eyes. "He does not like late students." Maya nodded and took her room assignment. She found her dormitory and unpacked her few belongings. Her roommate was another human girl named Lisa Harper. Lisa had blonde hair and seemed friendly. "Hi there," Lisa said with a bright smile. "I heard we got a new student. Where are you from?" "New Terra," Maya said. "Oh, that's one of the frontier colonies, right? It must have been exciting growing up there." Lisa waited for Maya to say more, but Maya just put her clothes in a drawer. "Well, I'm from Earth, New York, actually. This place is pretty intense, but you get used to it." Maya finished unpacking and sat on her bed. Lisa kept talking about the academy, the other students, and the instructors. Maya listened but did not say much back. After a while, Lisa got the hint and left Maya alone. The next morning, Maya found Combat Tactics Class 7 Alpha. The classroom was large with curved desks arranged in rows. Students from many different species sat together. Maya saw humans, but also creatures she had never seen before. Some looked like giant insects with many eyes. Others were made of what looked like living stone. Maya took a seat in the back row. A few students looked at her with curiosity, but she avoided eye contact. She opened her notebook and waited. The door burst open with a crash. Commander Vexstar entered the room. He was 8 feet tall with dark green scales covering his body. His head was shaped like a triangle, and his yellow eyes were cold and mean. Sharp claws extended from his fingers. When he smiled, Maya could see rows of pointed teeth. "Good morning, insects," Vexstar said in a deep voice. "I see we have a new student." His eyes found Maya immediately. She sat perfectly still and looked back at him without fear. "Stand up, human," Vexstar commanded. Maya stood slowly. She was much smaller than the instructor, but she did not look nervous. "Tell the class your name and where you come from." "Maya Rodriguez, New Terra Colony." "And why are you here, Maya Rodriguez from New Terra Colony?" "To learn military tactics." Vexstar walked closer to her. "Do you think you can learn military tactics, little human? Do you think your soft species has what it takes to be real soldiers?" Maya looked at him steadily. "I will do my best." Some of the alien students made sounds that might have been laughter. Vexstar's smile grew wider. "Sit down," he said. "We will." "See how well you do?" Maya sat back down. Vexstar began his lecture about combat theory. He talked about different fighting styles used by various species. He explained how some races were naturally stronger or faster than others. Throughout the lesson, he made comments about weaker species that could not survive real combat. "Some species," he said, looking directly at Maya, "are prey animals. They may be clever, but they lack the killer instinct needed for true warfare. They are soft, they hesitate. They die," Maya wrote notes in her notebook. She showed no reaction to his words after class. Several students approached Maya. Jake Morrison, a human boy with brown hair, walked up to her first. "Hey, don't let Vexstar get to you," he said. "He picks on all the human students. He thinks we're weak." Maya nodded but said nothing. "I'm Jake, by the way." That's Lisa over there, and Ben is the guy with the red hair. We humans have to stick together in this place. Okay, Maya said. Jake waited for her to say more, but Maya gathered her books and walked away. Lisa caught up with her in the hallway. Maya, are you all right? You seem really quiet. I'm fine, Maya said. If you ever want to talk or need help with anything, just let me know. This place can be tough, especially for humans. Maya nodded and continued walking. Lisa watched her go with a confused expression. The next few days followed the same pattern. Maya attended classes, took notes, and spoke only when directly asked questions. Her answers were always correct but very brief. She completed all her assignments properly, but never volunteered for anything extra. In weapons training, she handled the practice rifles competently. In tactical simulations, she followed orders exactly. In physical training, she kept up with the other students without standing out. Everything she did was adequate but unremarkable. Commander Vexstar watched her constantly. During lectures, he would suddenly call on her, trying to catch her unprepared. Maya always had the right answer. Ready? He made her the subject of his examples about inferior species, but Maya never reacted with anger or embarrassment. Some species, he said during one lesson, freeze when faced with a real threat. They become paralyzed by fear. This is why they make poor soldiers. His eyes fixed on Maya as he spoke. She continued taking notes as if he was talking about someone else entirely. Other students began to form opinions about the quiet human girl. Some of the more aggressive alien students saw her silence as weakness. They would bump into her in the hallways or make rude comments when she passed. Maya never responded or complained. The human students felt protective of her. Jake and Lisa tried to include her in their study groups and social activities. Maya would attend if asked directly, but she contributed little to conversations. She answered questions about her homework but never shared personal stories or opinions. One evening, Lisa sat on her bed and watched Maya read a textbook. Maya, can I ask you something? Maya looked up from her book. Yes, why don't you ever get mad? Vexstar is really unfair to you. He says awful things about humans, and you just sit there. Don't you want to defend yourself? Maya was quiet. For a long moment, getting mad would not help. But don't you feel anything? Doesn't it bother you? Maya closed her book. I feel many things, but showing them would not be useful. Lisa wanted to ask more questions, but Maya had already returned to her reading. There was something in Maya's calm voice that made Lisa decide not to push further. A week passed, then 2 weeks. Maya remained the same quiet, competent student. She attended every class, completed every assignment, and spoke only when necessary. Her grades were good but not exceptional. She seemed to blend into the background of academy life, but some students noticed small things. The way Maya's eyes constantly moved, watching everyone around her. How she always chose seats where she could see all the exits. The fact that she never seemed surprised by anything. No matter how sudden or unexpected. Commander Vexstar's frustration with Maya grew each day. He had broken many students with his harsh methods, but Maya showed no signs of cracking. She absorbed his insults and criticism without any visible effect. Her silence was starting to irritate him more than any angry response would have. 3 weeks after Maya's arrival, Vexstar decided it was time to increase the pressure. The quiet human girl was becoming a problem, and problems needed to be solved. He began planning something that would finally break her silence and show everyone what humans were really made of. Maya continued to sit in the back row, taking notes and watching everything with those dark, patient eyes. She had learned much in her weeks of silence, more than anyone realized. Soon, it would be time to use that knowledge. Commander Vexstar stood at the front of the classroom, his yellow eyes scanning the students. His gaze stopped on Maya Rodriguez sitting quietly in the back row. 4 weeks had passed since she arrived, and her silence was beginning to annoy him more each day. Today we will discuss combat psychology, Vexstar announced. The mind of a warrior versus the mind of prey. He began pacing back and forth, his claws clicking on the metal floor. Some species are born hunters. They have the instinct to kill when threatened. Others are born to run and hide. They may survive, but they will never be true warriors. Maya continued taking notes, her pen moving steadily across the paper. She showed no reaction to his words. Rodriguez, Vextar said suddenly. Stand up. Maya put down her pen and stood. The other students turned to look at her. Tell the class about the predators on your homeworld, Vextar commanded. New Terra has several dangerous species, Maya said in her quiet voice. The shadow cats hunt at night. The rock crawlers live in the mountains. The acid spitters prefer swamp areas. And how do humans deal with these predators? We avoid them when possible. We fight them when necessary. Vextar's smile showed his sharp teeth. You fight them? Little soft humans fight real predators? Yes. How? Many have you personally killed, Rodriguez? Maya was quiet for a moment. I do not keep count. Some of the alien students made sounds of disbelief. Vextar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the room. You do not keep count because the number is 0, he said. Humans tell stories to make themselves feel brave, but when faced with real danger, they freeze like frightened rabbits. Maya sat back down without saying another word. Vextar continued his lecture, but he kept glancing at her throughout the class. After the lesson ended, Jake Morrison approached Maya in the hallway. Maya, you need to defend yourself, he said. Vextar is making you look weak in front of everyone. I am not weak, Maya said simply. Then why don't you show him? Why don't you prove that humans can fight? Maya looked at Jake with her dark eyes. Proving things to him is not important, but it is important, Jake insisted. The other species already think humans are inferior. If you keep letting him insult you, it makes all of us look bad. Maya picked up her books and walked away. Jake watched her go, frustration clear on his face. The next day brought hand-to-hand combat training. Students were paired up to practice basic fighting techniques. Commander Vextar walked around the training room, watching and giving harsh criticism. Rodriguez, he called out, you will spar with Krath. Krath was a granite, one of the stone-like species. He was twice Maya's size and 3 times her weight. His rocky skin could deflect most attacks, and his strength was legendary even among his own people. Maya stepped onto the practice mat. Krath looked down at her with what might have been sympathy. I will be gentle, small human, he said in his deep, rumbling voice. Thank you, Maya replied. The match began. Krath moved slowly, trying not to hurt Maya. She dodged his attacks and landed a few hits of her own. Her strikes were precise, but seemed to have no effect on his stone skin. After 5 minutes, Krath grabbed her in a bear hug and held her until she tapped out. Pathetic, Vextar announced. The human could not even scratch her opponent. This is why soft species should not be warriors. Maya returned to her place without complaint. The other students whispered among themselves. Some felt sorry for her, while others agreed with Vextar that she looked helpless. But a few students noticed something different. Zara, a luminari who communicated through patterns of light, had been watching Maya carefully. She saw how Maya moved during the fight. Every dodge was perfectly timed. Every strike hit exactly where Maya aimed. She had not been trying to win. She had been learning how Krath fought. The training sessions became more intense over the following days. Vextar paired Maya with increasingly difficult opponents. She faced a Zephyrian with 4 arms, a Draconian with natural armor, and a Void Walker who could phase in and out of visibility. Maya lost every match, but she never complained. She took each defeat calmly and returned to her seat. Her human classmates grew more worried about her with each loss. Maya, you have to do something, Lisa said one evening in their dorm room. Vextar is making you fight everyone. It's not fair. Life is not fair, Maya replied, not looking up from her homework. But you're not even trying to win. I've seen you move. You're faster than you let on. Why don't you use your real abilities? Maya set down her pen. What makes you think I have real abilities? The way you watch everything. The way you never seem surprised. You're always calm, even when everyone else is panicking. That's not normal, Maya returned to her homework. I am just a student trying to learn. Lisa wanted to say more, but Maya's tone suggested the conversation was over. The psychological pressure continued to build. Vexstar began assigning Maya extra duties that kept her busy during free time. She had to clean training equipment, organize supply rooms, and write additional reports. Maya completed every task without complaint during academic lessons. Vexstar would call on Maya repeatedly, trying to catch her unprepared. He asked complex questions about alien military history, weapon specifications, and tactical theory. Maya always had the correct answer ready, speaking in her quiet, steady voice. "How convenient that Rodriguez always knows the answers," Vexstar said one day. "Perhaps she studies more than she sleeps, or perhaps she cheats." The accusation hung in the air. Several students looked uncomfortable. Cheating was a serious offense that could result in expulsion from the academy. "I do not cheat," Maya said calmly. "Then prove it," Vexstar commanded. "Tomorrow you will take a surprise examination on everything we have covered this semester. If you fail, you will be removed from my class." Maya nodded. "I understand." That night, Lisa found Maya reading in their room. But instead of studying her textbooks, Maya was reading files about different alien species. The information seemed to be about their biology, psychology, and cultural backgrounds. "Maya, shouldn't you be studying for tomorrow's test?" Lisa asked. "I am studying," Maya replied. "But you're not reading the right books. Those files are about alien behavior, not military tactics." Maya looked up from her reading. "Understanding behavior is part of tactics." The next morning, Maya took Vexstar's surprise examination. The test covered months of complex material, including details that had only been mentioned briefly in class. Maya worked steadily through the questions, her pen moving at a constant pace. When time was called, Maya handed in her paper. Vexstar graded it immediately, his expression growing darker with each correct answer. When he finished, he looked at Maya with something that might have been respect mixed with frustration. "Perfect score," he announced to the class. "It seems Rodriguez does not need to cheat after all." The other students looked impressed. Even some of the aliens who had dismissed Maya as weak began to reconsider their opinions, but Vexstar was not finished. If he could not break Maya academically, he would try other methods. He began implementing what he called stress testing. During practical exercises, during one session, he made Maya solve tactical problems while alien students shouted insults at her. Maya worked through the equations calmly, ignoring the verbal abuse. Her answers were correct and delivered in the same quiet voice she always used. Another time, he forced her to disassemble and reassemble a plasma rifle while he described graphic details about human defeats in past galactic conflicts. Maya's hands never shook as she worked with the weapon components. The breaking point came during a live fire exercise. Students were supposed to hit targets while under simulated combat stress. Vexstar arranged for Maya to face the most difficult course while he provided motivation by firing practice rounds. Near her position, Maya moved through the course with smooth efficiency. Her shots were accurate and her movement was fluid. But as she approached the final target, Vexstar stepped directly into her line of fire. "Shoot," he commanded. "Show me you have the killer instinct." Maya lowered her weapon. "I will not shoot." "An instructor, then you fail," Vexstar said. "You prove that humans are too soft for real warfare." Maya said nothing. She walked back to the starting position and waited for the next student to begin, but something had changed. The other students saw it, even if they could not name it. Maya's stillness was different now. She no longer seemed passive. She seemed patient, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. Vexstar felt it too. For the first time since Maya arrived, he wondered if he had pushed too far. But his pride would not let him back down now. If the quiet human girl wanted to play games, he would show her what a real warrior could do. The next confrontation was coming soon. Both of them could feel it building like a storm on the horizon. The announcement came on a Monday morning. Commander Vexstar stood before the class with a satisfied expression on his scaled face. Maya sat in her usual seat in the back row, quietly taking notes as he spoke. "Today we begin the most important Exercise of the semester, Vexstar said. You will be divided into teams for a 5-day tactical simulation. This exercise will test everything you have learned about strategy, leadership, and combat. He began reading team assignments from a datapad. Maya listened as her classmates were placed into groups. Jake Morrison was assigned to Alpha Team with 2 Zephyrians and a Luminari. Lisa Harper joined Beta Team with a mix of humans and granites. Other students were distributed fairly among the remaining groups. Rodriguez, Vexstar called out, you will lead Omega Team. Maya looked up from her notes. Being assigned as team leader was unusual. Vexstar rarely gave humans positions of authority. Your team members are Throck, Vesson, Zix, and Malkin, Vexstar continued. Maya recognized the names immediately. Throck was a draconian known for his aggressive attitude and dislike of humans. Vesson was a voidwalker who rarely spoke to anyone and preferred to work alone. Zix was a Zephyrian who considered most other species inferior to his own. Malkin was a granite who had failed this exercise twice before and resented being held back. The other students exchanged glances. Everyone knew that Maya had been given the most difficult team possible. These 4 aliens had personality conflicts with each other and with humans. They had never worked together successfully. The simulation begins in 1 hour, Vexstar announced. Team leaders, collect your mission briefings. Maya walked to the front of the class and took her assignment folder. Vexstar watched her with his yellow eyes. Having trouble already, Rodriguez? He asked quietly. No, sir, Maya replied. We will see about that. Maya returned to her seat and opened the folder. The mission was complex. Her team had to infiltrate an enemy base, retrieve sensitive information, and escape without being detected. They would face multiple security systems, armed guards, and time pressure. Success required perfect coordination between all team members. She studied the briefing carefully, then looked at her assigned teammates. Throck was arguing with Zix about something. Vesson sat alone, ignoring everyone. Malkin stared at the floor. With obvious frustration, Maya stood up and walked over to them. We should discuss our strategy, she said. Throck looked at her with contempt. I do not take orders from humans. I am not giving orders, Maya replied calmly. I am suggesting we work together. Work together? Zix clicked his mandibles in what might have been laughter. You cannot even defend yourself in combat class. Why should we follow you? Because we are a team, Maya said. We succeed together or fail together. Vesson finally spoke, his voice hollow and distant. I work alone. I always work alone. Not this time, Maya said. This mission requires all of us. Malkin looked up from the floor. I have failed this exercise twice. I will not fail again because of a weak human leader. Maya sat down at their table. Then let us make sure we do not fail. She spread out the mission briefing and began explaining her understanding of the objectives. As she spoke, something interesting happened. Despite their hostility, her teammates began to listen. Maya's voice was steady and confident. She pointed out details in the briefing that they had missed. She asked questions that made them think about the mission differently. The security system has a pattern, Maya explained. The guards change shifts every 2 hours. If we time our approach correctly, we can enter during the transition. Throck leaned forward. How do you know about guard patterns? I studied the briefing materials, Maya said. All the information is there if you look carefully. Over the next hour, Maya guided her team through the planning process. She did not give direct orders. Instead, she asked questions that led them to the right conclusions. She made suggestions that sounded like requests rather than commands. Throck, your natural armor would make you ideal for the front assault position, she said. But only if... You think it would work? Yes, Throck agreed. I can handle the guards. Vesson, your phasing ability could get you past the electronic locks, Maya continued. Would you be willing to try? Vesson nodded slowly. I can do that. Maya assigned roles based on each team member's strengths. She made them feel like they were making the decisions themselves. By the time they entered the simulation, they were working as a unit. The exercise took place in a large holographic chamber. The enemy base materialized around them, complete with walls, guards, and security systems. Maya led her team through the mission step by step. When Throck became impatient and wanted to charge ahead, Maya quietly suggested a better approach. When Zix complained about working with inferior species, Maya pointed out how much they needed his keen eyesight. When Vesson started to withdraw from the group, Maya gave him a crucial solo mission that played to his strengths. They moved through the simulation like a well-trained unit. Maya coordinated their actions with subtle hand signals and whispered instructions. She seemed to know exactly where each team member should be at every moment. The mission was a complete success. They retrieved the target information, avoided all security systems, and escaped without being detected. When the simulation ended, Maya's teammates looked at her with new respect. "How did you do that?" Malkin asked. "How did you make us work together?" "I listened to each of you," Maya replied. "I learned what you were good at." Commander Vexstar reviewed the simulation results with obvious displeasure. Omega Team had achieved the highest score in the class. Maya's leadership had been flawless, and her team had performed better than anyone expected. "Acceptable," Vexstar said grudgingly. But this was only the first day. The real test comes tomorrow. The second day brought more complex challenges. Maya's team had to assault a fortified position while under heavy fire. Again, Maya coordinated their actions perfectly. She used each team member's abilities to maximum effect, turning their individual strengths into collective power. By the third day, other students were watching Maya's team with fascination. Somehow, the quiet human girl had transformed 4 problem students into an efficient military unit. They followed her lead without question and trusted her judgment completely, but Commander Vexstar was not pleased with Maya's success. He had expected her to fail, to prove that humans were unfit for leadership. Instead, she was making him look wrong in front of the entire class. On the 4th day, Vexstar decided to intervene. He changed the simulation parameters without warning, making the exercise nearly impossible. Maya's team faced overwhelming odds and impossible time constraints. Maya adapted to the new challenges without complaint. She reorganized her team's strategy on the fly, finding solutions to problems that should have been unsolvable. When the simulation ended, they had achieved another perfect score. Vexstar's frustration reached a breaking point. After class, he called Maya aside. "You think you are clever, do you not?" he said. "I think I am learning," Maya replied. "Learning what? How to cheat? How to manipulate the system?" "Learning how to lead." Vexstar's eyes narrowed. "You are not a leader. You are a prey animal pretending to be a predator. Tomorrow I will show this class what you really are." Maya looked at him with her dark, steady eyes. "What do you mean? Tomorrow you will face a real test. Not a simulation, not a game. A real demonstration of combat ability." Vexstar's smile showed his sharp teeth. "You will fight me in unarmed combat, in front of the entire class." Maya was quiet for a long moment. "Will this be an official academy exercise?" "Official enough," Vexstar said. "The rules are simple. No weapons, no time limit. Fight until one of us yields or cannot continue. And if I refuse, then you will be dismissed from the academy for cowardice. Your file will show that you were too weak to defend yourself when challenged." Maya nodded slowly. "I understand." "Good. Tomorrow afternoon, in the main training hall, I will finally show everyone what humans are really made of." As Maya walked back to her dormitory, she felt something shift inside her. For weeks, she had been patient. She had watched, learned, and waited. She had absorbed insults and endured humiliation without complaint, but now Vexstar had crossed the line. He was not just attacking her anymore. He was using her as a symbol to humiliate all humans. He wanted to prove that her species was inferior, that they deserved to be treated as prey. Maya had learned much during her weeks of silence. She had studied every student in the class, every instructor in the academy. She knew their strengths, their weaknesses, their fighting styles, and their fears. Tomorrow, Commander Vexstar would discover what Maya Rodriguez was really capable of. He would learn that some prey animals are actually predators in disguise, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal their true nature. The time for silence was almost over. Word spread through the academy like wildfire. By noon, everyone knew about the fight between Commander Vexstar and Maya Rodriguez. Students from other classes canceled their afternoon activities to watch. Even some instructors decided to attend. The unusual demonstration. Maya spent the morning in her dormitory room, sitting quietly on her bed. Lisa watched her with growing concern. Her roommate seemed different today. She was still calm, but there was something new in her eyes. Something that made Lisa feel nervous. "Maya, you don't have to do this," Lisa said. "You could report Vexstar to the Academy administration. What he's doing isn't fair." Maya looked at her with those dark eyes. "It is too late for that now." "But he's twice your size, he has claws and armor plating. You could get seriously hurt." "Yes," Maya said simply. "I could." Lisa sat down on her own bed. "Then why are you going through with it?" Maya was quiet for a long moment. "Because some things need to be settled." At lunch, Maya ate very little. She sat with Jake, Lisa, and Ben at their usual table. Her human classmates tried to convince her to back out of the fight, but Maya listened without responding to their arguments. Jake leaned forward and spoke quietly. "Maya, I've seen Vexstar fight before. He's trained in draconian combat arts. He's killed people in real battles. This isn't a training exercise." "I know," Maya said. "Then you know you can't win." Maya looked at him with an expression that was hard to read. "Do I?" Something in her voice made Jake stop talking. He studied her face, trying to understand what she was thinking. For weeks, Maya had seemed like a victim, someone who needed protection. But now she looked different, dangerous. The afternoon arrived too quickly. Students filled the main training hall until there was standing room only. Maya entered through the side door, wearing standard academy training clothes. She looked small and fragile compared to the alien students around her. Commander Vexstar entered from the opposite side of the hall. He had removed his instructor uniform and wore only simple fighting gear. His scaled skin gleamed under the bright lights. His claws were extended, and his yellow eyes focused on Maya with predatory intensity. The Academy's head instructor, Commander Steele, acted as the official referee. She was a stern human woman who had served in the galactic military for 30 years. "This is an official Academy demonstration," Commander Steele announced. "The rules are simple. No weapons. Fight until one combatant yields or is unable to. Continue. Medical teams are standing by." Maya walked to the center of the fighting circle. Vexstar followed, towering over her like a giant. The size difference was shocking. He was 8 feet tall and weighed 3 times as much as Maya. His reach advantage was enormous. "Last chance to surrender, little human," Vexstar said loud enough for everyone to hear. "I will try not to damage you too badly." Maya said nothing. She took her position and waited. Commander Steele raised her hand. "Begin." Vexstar immediately began his psychological warfare. He circled Maya slowly, describing what he planned to do to her. He talked about human weakness and how this fight would prove once and for all that humans did not belong in the military. "Your species is soft," he said as he moved around her. "You have no natural weapons, no armor, no killer instinct. You are prey animals who dream of being predators." Maya turned slowly to keep him in sight, but she did not respond to his words. Her breathing was steady and controlled. Her hands hung relaxed at her sides. "I have fought humans before," Vexstar continued. "They all break the same way. They freeze when faced with real violence. They beg for mercy when they realize they are going to die." Maya's expression remained completely calm. She watched Vexstar's movement patterns, studying how he shifted his weight and positioned his feet. She noted the slight favor he showed. To his left side, the way his right arm hung just a fraction lower than his left. "Nothing to say?" Vexstar asked. "No brave words, no final speech about human courage?" Maya spoke for the first time since entering the circle. Her voice was quiet but carried clearly through the silent hall. "Are you going to fight or just talk?" Vexstar's eyes flashed with anger. He had expected fear, pleading, or at least some emotional reaction. Maya's calm question insulted him more than any insult could have. He attacked. Vexstar moved fast for his size, lunging forward with claws extended. He aimed for Maya's shoulder, intending to grab her and end the fight quickly. But Maya was not where she was supposed to be. She had moved just enough to avoid his grab, shifting her weight with minimal effort. Vexstar's claws passed through empty air. As he stumbled slightly from the missed attack, Maya struck. Her hit landed precisely on a nerve cluster just below his ribs. It was not a powerful blow, but it was perfectly placed. Vexstar felt a sharp pain shoot through his side. He spun around, swiping at Maya with his other arm. Again, she was not there. She had moved behind him, staying just out of reach. As he turned, she struck again, this time hitting a pressure point on his back leg. The audience watched in stunned silence. Maya was not fighting like a desperate human trying to survive. She was fighting like something that had studied Vexstar. For weeks, learning every weakness and vulnerability, Vexstar's confidence began to crack. His attacks became more aggressive but less controlled. He swung wildly, trying to use his size and strength to overwhelm Maya, but she flowed around his attacks like water, always just beyond his reach. Each time he missed, Maya punished him. Her strikes were small and precise, targeting nerves, joints, and pressure points that most beings did not even know existed. She was not trying to match his strength. She was using his size against him. The watching students began to whisper. This was not what anyone had expected. Maya was not just surviving. She was winning. Vexstar realized he was in trouble. He changed tactics, trying to corner Maya against the wall of the fighting circle. But Maya seemed to know what he was planning before he did. She moved away from the wall, staying in the center where she had room to maneuver. Stand still and fight, Vexstar growled. I am fighting, Maya replied calmly. She attacked more aggressively now, no longer content to just avoid his strikes. She moved in close, landing a series of rapid hits on his torso and arms. Each strike was perfectly placed to cause maximum damage with minimum effort. Vexstar swung desperately, trying to catch her with his claws. Maya ducked under his arm and swept his legs. The huge draconian crashed to the ground with a sound that echoed through the hall. He rolled away and jumped back to his feet, but Maya was already moving. She leaped onto his back, wrapping one arm around his throat and using her other hand to strike at specific points on his neck and spine. Vexstar thrashed wildly, trying to throw her off. But Maya held on like she had done this many times before. Her strikes were methodical and precise, targeting his nervous system with surgical accuracy. Finally, Vexstar's legs gave out. He collapsed to his knees, then fell forward onto his hands. Maya rode him down, maintaining her grip until he was completely still. She released him and stepped back. Vexstar lay on the floor, breathing heavily but unable to move. Maya had not broken any bones or caused permanent damage. She had simply shut down his nervous system with pressure point attacks that would wear off in a few hours. The hall was completely silent. No one moved, no one spoke. They all stared at the small human girl standing over the defeated draconian instructor. Maya looked around at the shocked faces of her classmates and instructors. For the first time in weeks, she was ready to speak. The time for silence was over. She had something important to tell them about what humans really were. The news of Maya's victory spread through the academy like wildfire. Within hours, every student and instructor knew that a human girl had defeated Commander Thorn in single combat. The massive Vorthak who had dominated the combat arena for years had been brought down by someone half his size. Maya walked through the corridors the next morning to find everything had changed. Alien students who had ignored her for weeks now watched her with wide eyes. Some stepped aside when she passed. Others whispered among themselves in their native languages. The fear in their voices was clear even without translation. In the dining hall, Maya sat with her usual group of human cadets. Danny Martinez grinned at her across the table. You should see how the Korathi students are acting, he said, cutting into his synthetic protein. They keep looking over here like you might attack them. Lisa Barnes nodded. 3 Zephyrians asked me if humans have been hiding our combat abilities on purpose. I told them to ask you directly. Jake Morrison, who had been Maya's roommate through her weeks of silence, shook his head in amazement. I still can't believe you planned all of this. You never said a word about what you were doing. Maya took a sip of her coffee and looked around the dining hall. Students from a dozen different species sat at their tables, but many kept glancing in her direction. I didn't plan to fight Thorn, she said quietly. I planned to understand him. The fight was just the result. Her voice carried further than she intended. Several nearby tables fell silent. Maya noticed but continued eating without changing her expression. Captain Elena Rodriguez approached their table. The human instructor looked tired but pleased. Maya, I need to speak with you after breakfast. There have been some developments. When they met in Rodriguez's office an hour later, Maya found herself facing not just the captain, but also Professor Keth, the wise Centaurian who taught tactical theory. The blue-skinned alien's 4 eyes studied Maya with new interest. Your demonstration yesterday has caused quite a stir, Rodriguez began. Not just here at the Academy, but throughout the Fleet Command structure. Admiral Hayes wants a full report on what happened. Professor Keth leaned forward. More importantly, your methods have forced us to reconsider our understanding of human combat doctrine. We have been evaluating your species based on physical capabilities alone. Maya sat straight in her chair. What do you want to know? Everything, Rodriguez said. How long have you been planning this? What did you learn during your observation period? And most importantly, are there other humans employing similar tactics? Maya was quiet for a moment, thinking. I started watching everyone on my first day. Not just Commander Thorn, but all the instructors and students. I wanted to understand how different species fight, think, and react under pressure. She pulled out a small notebook from her pocket. I documented movement patterns, reaction times, behavioral triggers, and emotional responses. Every species has predictable patterns once you know what to look for. Professor Keth's eyes widened. You conducted a comprehensive intelligence operation, while appearing to be a failing student. I wasn't failing, Mia corrected. I was learning. Every loss taught me something new about my opponent's strengths and weaknesses. Commander Thorn thought he was humiliating me, but he was actually providing me with detailed combat data, Rodriguez smiled. And the other humans, are they doing the same thing? Maya nodded. Not exactly the same, but similar. We all adapt differently. Danny studies group dynamics and leadership structures. Lisa focuses on technology and equipment weaknesses. Jake analyzes psychological profiles and stress responses. So your entire class has been conducting systematic intelligence gathering, Professor Keth said slowly. While we believed you were struggling to keep up with the coursework. We were never trying to keep up, Maya said. We were trying to understand. There's a difference. Over the following days, Maya found herself in a strange new position. Instructors who had previously ignored her now sought her opinions on tactical scenarios. Students who had mocked human weakness now asked respectful questions about human strategy. Commander Thorn took longer to adjust. The proud Vorthic warrior had been shaken by his defeat, and his initial response was anger. He confronted Maya after combat class 3 days later. You used tricks and deception, he growled, his golden eyes blazing. That was not honorable. Combat, Maya looked up at him calmly. You're right. It wasn't honorable by your standards, but it was effective by mine. A true warrior faces their opponent with strength and courage, Thorn continued. A true human faces their opponent with intelligence and patience, Maya replied. Your species evolved to be apex predators through physical dominance. Mine evolved to be apex predators through persistence and adaptation. We're both predators, Commander, we just hunt differently. Thorn stared at her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression. You studied me for weeks before our fight. Yes. You knew exactly how I would attack. Yes, you allowed me to humiliate you in front of the class to gather this information. Yes. Thorns. Shoulders sagged slightly. I have underestimated your species. Most people do, Maya said. That's usually their mistake. The conversation marked a turning point in their relationship. Thorm began to respect Maya's methods, even if he didn't fully understand them. He started asking her for insights about human tactics, and she began learning about Vorthik military history from him. The Academy's curriculum started changing within weeks. New courses were added focusing on psychological warfare, long-term strategic planning, and adaptive combat techniques. Human students were no longer seen as weak additions to the program, but as specialists in a unique form of warfare, Maya's reputation spread beyond the Academy. Reports of her methods reached Fleet Command, and suddenly human cadets throughout the galaxy were being evaluated with new criteria. Physical strength and speed were no longer the primary measures of combat. Effectiveness. The graduation ceremony arrived sooner than expected. Maya stood before hundreds of cadets and instructors from dozens of species. She had been selected as the first human valedictorian in the Academy's history. When I first arrived here, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the large hall, many of you saw humans as weak. Too small, too slow, too fragile to be effective warriors. She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. Vorthik, Zephyrians, Korathi, and dozens of other species listened intently. You were measuring us by your own standards. You looked at our bodies and saw weakness. You looked at our weapons and saw primitive technology. You looked at our tactics and saw confusion. Maya's voice grew stronger. But you didn't look at our minds. You didn't see our patience. You didn't understand our greatest weapon. She gestured to the human cadets scattered throughout the audience. Humans don't win fights by being the strongest or fastest. We win by being smarter, more persistent, and more adaptable than anything else we face. We are persistence predators, and we have been hunting successfully for millions of years. The hall was completely silent now. Even the instructors were hanging on her words. Today, you graduate knowing that the galaxy is bigger and more dangerous than you thought when you arrived. But you also graduate knowing that you have allies who will never stop fighting, never stop learning, and never stop adapting to overcome any challenge. Maya's eyes found Commander Thorn in the audience. The massive Vorthik nodded slightly. The galaxy's other species now understand what Earth's prey animals learned long ago. When a human starts hunting you, the chase is already over. You just don't know it yet. After the ceremony, Maya stood with her classmates as they received their assignments to various ships in the United Systems fleet. Danny Martinez was assigned to a diplomatic vessel where his understanding of group dynamics would be valuable. Lisa Barnes was going to a technology research ship. Jake Morrison would serve on a psychological operations vessel. Maya's assignment was different. She was being sent to the flagship of the Third Fleet, where she would work directly with Admiral Hayes on developing new human combat doctrines. That night, Maya sat in her quarters making her final personal log entry from the Academy. Today, the galaxy learned something important about humanity. We are not the strongest or fastest species. We are not the most advanced or most numerous, but we are the most persistent. We are the species that never gives up, never stops learning, and never stops adapting to overcome any obstacle. She looked out the window at the stars, thinking about the future that awaited her and her fellow humans among them. For millions of years, we were the apex predators of Earth. Now we are the apex predators of the stars. The galaxy is about to learn what that really means. Maya closed her log and prepared for sleep. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new enemies to study, and new battles to win. But tonight, she smiled knowing that humanity had finally revealed its true nature to the galaxy. The hunt was just beginning.